Well, top of the morning, and looks like we've got a lot that's going to be happening in the next few days when it comes to the litigation against Illinois' gun ban with Naperville, that case that was having a Northern District federal judge deciding to not impose a temporary restraining order or a preliminary injunction, and actually denied those requests from plaintiffs. While the plaintiffs indicating that they want some kind of hold on the state law pending an appeal here. So that's just some of the latest, but we, of course, have the expectation of the state to file a response to a motion for a preliminary injunction in the Southern District of Illinois with 4 consolidated cases there. So a lot to unpack here in this next few moments. And, of course, you can call in at any time at 217-629-7970. It's 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. And always appreciate hearing from you, especially as we march right on through close to the end of the week here. So chime in, again, 217-629-7970. What do you think is going to happen here in the next handful of days? Because what we have is the state having to respond to 4 different cases in Southern District Federal Court. And that response is supposed to have an entire list of all items banned by the state law. That response coming from the state, then the plaintiffs have a few weeks to respond to the state, and then the state, regardless, has to respond to the charges against the law that it violates the Second Amendment. And that's the main issue that they're going to be focusing on in the Southern District. There were other issues brought up by some of those cases in the Southern District that were consolidated, that the state law banning certain types of weapons and also requiring you to register those weapons deemed assault weapons and therefore banned by state law. The Fifth Amendment right of not having to incriminate yourself to government. There's an argument that this violates the Fifth Amendment right. Because if you possess those weapons starting October 1st, with a deadline of January 1st, you have to register those with Illinois State Police. So some arguing that violates the Fifth Amendment right. That's not being brought up in the Southern District. Even though it was filed, that could come out at a later time. Nor is the equal protections argument. That's the 14th Amendment argument. They're only focusing on the Second Amendment argument. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So the state has to reply to that Second Amendment charge in the consolidated Southern District federal courts, I believe, by like March 16th, if I recall. But regardless, the Southern District, they have an April 12th hearing down in East St. Louis. So a lot of things going to be happening in the next few weeks with the Southern District case. But with the Northern District case, where a few weeks ago we had the Northern judge there who has been overturned twice on other gun-related decisions that she made, you have the case out of Naperville with Robert Bevis and Law Weapons. And earlier this week, they filed a motion for injunctive relief pending an appeal. Now, this is one of the legal steps that could be taken here to ultimately try to have the courts block the law they say is harming people now while they deal with an appeal up to the appellate courts in the Northern District case. So, again, just some background here on the Bevis v. Naperville case. You had Naperville, they passed a ordinance banning certain weapons and magazines on August 16th, 2022. That was a few months before the state enacted their statewide ban. So in between then and when the state enacted their ban, the Law Weapons Company sued the city of Naperville after the state banned the weapons. The lawsuit was amended to include the state. So you do have the Attorney General in the Naperville case filing yesterday as an intervener in that case. So you can see that the Attorney General for the state of Illinois stepping in to be a defendant in that particular proceeding. But just a few days before, you had the motion from Robert Bevis to essentially have an appeal or an injunctive relief pending an appeal. And I want to take a look at some of the documentation here as you pour through and look at the bullet points here. It says, for instance, state law. Oh, that's the wrong. Let's see if we can pull up the correct documents with the motion to have the preliminary injunction pending appeal. And here we go. So ultimately, the motion lays out all of the history of the challenge that they have, the statement that the state law exempts its ban of certain class of people because of their employment status, like police officers, active and retired law enforcement officers, active duty, members of the Air Force, the United States and National Guard, security companies, guards, employees, but does not exempt sitting or retired judges or people like myself. I'm a federally licensed firearms dealer, a certified master gunsmith, and an Illinois licensed private detective and law enforcement firearm instructor licensed by the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. So interesting to highlight that, and in this case saying that, hey, it's even judges can't exercise their Second Amendments, and that's the allegation. But you also have the furtherance of this argument for a preliminary injunction from the Naperville case, highlighting how his business has been all but entirely done away with. 85% of the firearms that his business sells, he says that he can't sell. And goes on to decry the state law for violating Second Amendment rights, and argues further that they want to enjoin the law, keep it from being enforced, pending an appeal. So we'll see ultimately if the judge grants that, just from seeing the ruling that she issued several weeks ago in the Northern District against the gun store here. You can't really hold out too much hope, but regardless, this does give us another indication that indeed they are going to appeal the Naperville case. So those are the federal cases, right? You're going to expect an appeal in the Naperville case, while a motion to have a preliminary injunction grant while there's an appeal. Don't know if that's going to happen. In the Southern District, you've got the state that has to respond to the 4 consolidated cases against the gun ban. Then in state courts tomorrow, you've got the Macon County case that has a status hearing. That's the standalone case from State Representative Dan Calkins. And then you have the 3 other cases from Tom DeVore. I believe that there are still outstanding subpoenas and motions to quash subpoenas. So those 3 cases have a lot of other steps that they're going to be going through with Tom DeVore's cases. Those have temporary restraining orders on them, but only for the thousands or so that signed on as plaintiffs in those cases. For the federal cases, that's where if there's a preliminary injunction granted, even in the Southern District, which is quite possible, could come from the bench sometime second week of April or shortly thereafter. That's where it would be a statewide granting of a halt of the gun ban and registry, pending, of course, it going all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, which is possible. However, keep in mind, there's a ton of other cases all across the country that have similar challenges to similar laws that could have some finality before you have Illinois' laws determined by the federal courts. So a lot of moving pieces. It can get convoluted, but again, I think all of us together, we can somehow maybe apply for a junior law degree or something. I don't know. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Of course, you can like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Just search Bishop on Air on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube as well. Make it happen and we can connect that way. But you can always call in live and local when watching live, 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970.